I'm Sylvester Luoch. I'm in charge of strategy for Easy Drain Care Products. So as usual, I'm not very well trained in the healthcare field, not even very well, not trained at all. But I work with people who are skilled in the field. So together with me, I have the founder and president, Ezra Nyankira, and I also have a marketing executive, Edward Nyankira, who has over 15 years in nursing. Ezra has over 21 years of experience in nursing. So real quick, we just want to get started on trying to understand why the Easy Drain concept, and maybe just a brief background from Ezra as to why the thought around an Easy Drain bed, an Easy Drain cushion, or an Easy Drain whatever else will come in future.
As you have heard, my name is Ezra Nyankira, the founder and president of Easy Drain Care Products. This is a concept which started many years ago when I was working in home care, and I used to be a wound care nurse. I used to go to people's homes, change their dressings, and clean their wounds, and go. I could do that and then come back the next day until the wound healed, or until it got worse and the patient had to be taken to the hospital. So one thing happened: either the wound healed or it got worse. But unfortunately, to say, there is too much suffering out there which can be eliminated. This particular instance, I was taking care of a couple, an elderly couple, a man and a wife. The wife was bedridden, and the husband was able to get around, but he was sickly, so he couldn't offer really any care to the wife. So I was taking care of this lady, and she had a wound on her coccyx. Could come in, clean the wound, change the dressing, and leave. Then I noticed that every time I came back, the patient was in the same diaper I left her in with the previous day. And obviously nobody changed her during the entire 24 hours since I left. And the wound was getting worse. And the lady was in pain, and I started thinking, we gotta do something different. This is not working. And I started imagining or thinking, is there anything we could do better than what we are doing at the moment? I mean, we had all the machines, we had the wound vac, we had all the machines which are needed to take care of a wound, but still there was a problem with the incontinence and the urine which was burning, eating the rest of her skin. The diapers have their purpose, but in this particular case, especially for the incontinent people, the diapers really don't serve them well, simply because we are addressing not getting the bed wet or their clothes wet. We are not addressing the patient's skin. And that's where we started, I started working on this project. And the earlier days I tried to see how it could work. It took me a while. I bought a few mattresses, made some holes in them, and put some tubes in them, and put plastic over it to see whether that could help if somebody laid on it, so that when they pee, the water could go through. It didn't work, but the concept was there. So I eventually had to contact some engineers and some designers, and we started working on the project. Even though it's been years in the making, now we do have the Easy Drain array of products, and that's why we are here today to talk about.
And looking at this from a perspective of experience, Edward, and looking at what is available out there for medical care, be it in group homes, nursing homes, long-term care, hospitals, what instruments or machines or equipment are available out there that you think are addressing more the bed and the material stuff and not pointing to the patient, which essentially creates the need for an easy drain type of product?
Yeah, thank you for handing this thing over to me. I've been waiting for a minute. You know, I love to talk. But that aside, so with my years of experience, I've been out there. Actually, it's been 17. Yeah, you said over 15, and I'll give you that much Novera, but 17 years in the field. I've seen quite a few things. And I can say if I haven't seen it, probably I don't care to see it again. But we have beds, we have patients, and we have other things that we use to, in the name of making the patients comfortable or getting better. When they're sick, you're gonna get them better. And when they're at home, you're gonna make them comfortable. So you gotta differentiate the two. So in the hospital setting, we have the Foley catheters, which initially was for incontinence, to help the incontinent people. But as the time went by, that's not what we use it for anymore. Now we use it for if you have a condition that you can urinate or you can eliminate. That's when you qualify to get a catheter. And we have had other inventions like the PureWeak, which is external catheter, they call it. You just, it's a tube, put it in between the legs and put it to suction. And I couldn't tell you how many times you thought that the wall suction showed you it's 25 and you believed it was 25 to find out that it wasn't working right. It was higher than what it was showing you, and then it ended up sucking for too long or too hard and caused pressure. So, or ulcer in private areas where really you shouldn't be having any pressure ulcers over there because there's no pressure point. Okay? And all those things were there to address this issue of keeping the patient dry. And then we have the diapers, the chalks. If you look at the chalk, it's something that is waterproof from the bottom, and it's on the top, it soaks whatever drains on it. So we put that on the bed, and then at some point, hospitals have gone away from using diapers, but they use chalks, which is the same concept, except that they just don't want to use the diapers because they think it keeps the moisture to the patient. But the same thing the chalks does, it just sucks that urine and keeps it right there. Essentially, what's doing, whether you look at it this way or you don't, what it's doing is protecting what? Whatever is underneath.
Yes.
Whatever is on the top is not getting protected because that's where the urine is soaking and sitting. So however much we want to say that those products really do help patients to keep dry, they don't. They keep the beds dry. So for many years we've been having this concept where we're protecting the beds, but we're saying we're protecting the patient's skin. And that's where Easy Drain comes in and says, you know what, maybe we've been doing this backwards for so long. How about we look for a product that actually focuses on the patient? Let's focus on the patient, not the bed. Let the bed do what is, let it get wet. You know what, if that's what gets wet and the patient stays dry, so be it. But Easy Drain has come with this product where it lets the patient stay dry and the bed takes the heat. So we've come with the innovation to do that. So both we have benefits where the patient actually gets the most benefit, where they don't have to stay soaked wet for a period of time until somebody comes to help. I mean, in hospital they say 2 hours because there's people employed there working 24 hours. How many times do you find somebody at home coming to change somebody every 2 hours? And is there any rule, like in the hospitals, they have a medical rule saying the patients gotta be, if they can't turn, they gotta be turned every 2 hours. There is no an equivalent rule. When these patients leave the hospital and they go home, there is no such a rule that done them every 2 hours. So it could be 4, 5, 6. It could be even, like Ezra said, it could be a day before these patients get taken care of in a home because there is no rules like in the hospital. So it could be 24 hours actually. Can you imagine laying in urine for 24 hours waiting for somebody to come and help you? Have to think that.
Yeah, and okay, with the uric acid and all that burning effect. Talking of how this the center part of the bed does its drainage work. As we had a conversation with Ezra earlier in some of the strategy sessions, he educated me on why we use silicone as a material as opposed to rubber. So it's called what? Latex rubber. So Ezra, if you would just elucidate further as to why that material as opposed to latex rubber.
Well, we chose silicone versus latex rubber because from our research, a lot of people are allergic to latex, and so we thought we want to make it more user-friendly, and there are more people are less allergic to silicone. That's primarily why we chose to use silicone on our products. And in the future, as we continue with our research and development, if there is any material which is more user-friendly or patient-friendly, I believe we will be looking towards to using that material. That's the main reason why we are using silicone. And I will allude to what Edward was saying about the patient. A few years ago, the caregivers, we had plenty of caregivers who could take care of patients. But as time goes by, I imagine about 11 years ago, we were going through that scenario I gave earlier. And as time went by, there are less caregivers coming into the market versus the number of people who are getting sick, or the elderly and such people needing care. And that has put a strain on the healthcare workers themselves. So you find that, for example, in a nursing home, I worked in a nursing home for a long time, a case whereby about 15 years ago you could have one aide to maybe 5, 6 patients. Now it's one aide to 12, 15, sometimes 20 patients. It is impossible to really take care of these patients. And remember, these are our brothers, they are our parents, they are our grandparents. We need to take care of them. But we don't have the manpower as per se. Or if there is, then there's something has broken in the system, because it's not translating to the ratio of patient to caregiver ratio. It's too high. So we believe with our product that will give a little relief to the caregivers. Can you imagine, Edward or Sylvester, you taking care of a patient who is maybe 250 pounds or 300 or 400 pounds by yourself? It is a chore. It is difficult.
I would like to steal it from you, and don't count it against me. So anyway, I had an opportunity about a couple years ago. Was it a couple years? Maybe a year, to be exact. We had a client or a patient in one of the hospitals that I worked for. And this particular client was a pediatric patient. So she weighed over 500 pounds rather, over 500 pounds. So we had a big boy bed. That's how we call them, the big boy beds. So we had a big boy bed. But the way the habitus, or the way this patient was formed, she had so much weight in so different places that it made it very hard actually to take care of him. If you had to turn this patient on the side, the chest was so heavy that you collapsed the lungs, so you couldn't keep him there in that position to clean him long enough to get them clean enough before you bring him back. So you had to use like 8 people. So you go this way and you try to work on this side and then bring him back, let them get some wind, and then try to come this way and do the other side. And even with all the things available to this day, the state of art equipment hospitals have this day, it was insufficient. I can tell you it was insufficient as to the care of this patient. Why? we had to use multiple chalks. Well, they say use one. Well, that's what they say when you plan for a patient is individualized. You cannot cut and say, oh, one chalk fits them all. You will be gravely ineffective to some patients if you go that route. But that's what the narrative seems to be going out there. Use one chalk, okay? You might as well not use it in this case because it's not going to work. The patient himself are bigger than that chalk. So you needed to use a few of them to at least cover a good area. At least it can soak the urine for a little while before it starts runs out. This is a 500-pound, very swollen patient. So whenever they produce urine, they're not going to produce 200 mL of urine. They produce about 2 liters, and a chalk cannot soak 2 liters of urine. And most of the time, she did not want to be touched because it hurt so bad to take care of her. So she would refuse care. So you come in with your crew, got everybody that you can gather, you come in and then you say, okay, we're going to help you now. She will say, no, I don't want it now, come back later. So by the time you come later, you've started to mop urine from the doorway so you can come in because it's already flowing down. And I thought about this product, it was under development. I'm like, this is probably could have saved this situation to the point where after them, you don't go number 2 or you don't poop every 2 hours. At least a normal human being poops maybe once or twice. Unless you got something going on, once or twice. We expect maybe every other day or even, but you urinate frequently. The case for this particular patient, it was constant to the point where no matter what we did, it was insufficient. We tried everything, we brought everything that we could use, and it was totally insufficient. I thought about this, if we had an easy drain bed over here, at least, we couldn't have addressed all the weight issues, but this issue of incontinence where urine is running down the door could have at least been contained.
And the patient would have stayed dry.
Could have stayed a hair lot drier than what we did the entire time she was in the hospital.
More comfortable.
Now, looking at the patient experiences based on your own observation and research, it definitely means that for this kind of products, we have to stay constantly on the lookout. It's a lifetime of commitment, of continuous research and development. At this particular point, Ezra, maybe you just have a view of what your vision for research and development for the products are, and what areas the market would expect an advancement, or the users would expect alterations and continuous development of the current products.
Yes, I can address that. As you know, EasyDrain is a young company right now, simply because even though the idea has been there for a while, we are getting the products to market now. These are our basic units we have right now. What we have here is gravity-drained products, and we are working on improving them to suction-drained products. So that's going to be the next stage up. We are going to have the gravity-drained products for those who will need them, even though we know the gravity-drained are sufficient, but as improvement comes on, we'll have those. And we do know that as our products stand right now, they're great products, but we know there will be continuous improvement. We are looking at probably in the future, we do intend to, or we imagine that they will be in hospitals and probably nursing homes and things like that. So for the hospitals, we are designing beds which will take care of the med-surg and maybe critical care areas. So that means we'll have a bed with maybe a scale, IV poles, and things like that, plus our patented EasyDrain Center. That will take care of a lot of issues, we believe. And the other thing I want to address is, as we talk or we address this issue of EasyDrain, a lot of people have asked me, what about those people who go number 2? What do you do for them in that case? This one seems to be working very well for the urine. Well, as Edward said, urine is the main problem right now we are facing because people pee or urinate often, and the acid eats their skin. But we have underwears which are friendly people to wear. They let the urine go through and they hold the feces back, so the caregiver can come clean that later. Just like we are not eliminating caregivers with our products. That would be a mistake if somebody suggested that. What we are doing is we are giving a product which is patient-centered. Okay, the patient will need some cleaning later on in case of them having a BM, and of course the bed needs to be cleaned after it has been used in either way. So we are not eliminating caregivers, but we are reducing the amount of work they do. And Edward mentioned about the iPad. I have not seen it, but sounds a very interesting idea. But even with that iPad, I believe if they don't adapt to our system of easy drain system, I believe that bed somehow is going to is going to be falling short of what it needs to deliver. So either way, you look at it, I believe that easy drain is the way for the beds for the future, and that's why we say the care products of the future, because I really, maybe I could be wrong, maybe I'm biased. Of course, I came up with the product. I might be biased, but I tend to believe that in the future, most beds, this is the way they are going to be. Whether it's in the home or in the hospitals, I believe we are going to see a trend towards what we have set up pace for the industry.
Maybe just towards summarizing. In conclusion, I look at it from the business end, and I would say that when I look at the number of people who are retiring now, people who are getting into what would be called the aging bracket all over the world, and especially in America, where we talk of the baby boomers, you have a very robust population retiring, a very wealthy population, people with so much resources that the comfort they can get can only be limited by the innovative thinking of those who invent what they can use. And also latest research, of course, barring the impact of COVID, the highest growth rate of population is in the demographic of 90 years plus. I look at these things from two perspectives: a growing need or a growing demand for this kind of care against a falling number per capita of caregivers. So when I look at those two things, that is an area in which I would give a business case for this kind of easy drain beds, because they provide comfort and they reduce the number of caregivers required. Maybe just in quick conclusion, I will go with Edward first, and then I'll have Ezra have the last word.
Yeah, like we have said, I mean, if we give testimonies and stories, it will be until tomorrow, because there is more. And we see more every time you think about something, you're like, man, this product can really solve this problem, or to some extent, make it better for both the patient and even the caregivers. You know, we have this issue that we don't address. It's called caregivers strength, where you overwork, you burn out your caregiver. I'm the caregiver, I'm supposed to take care of you, but you are burning me out. I just can't do it. Mentally, I'm getting mental issues now because I gotta do this thing every 5 minutes, you know. I change you, I go right there. Before I come back, you're already calling me that you're already wet. So, you know, over time it gives the caregiver mental issues that also need to be addressed at some point. But if we had products like Easy Drain, where I mean, yeah, you can be wet for a few minutes, that's fine. That product can help until I get back in there. So I'm not constantly getting this stress that I have to get back in there when you call me because you are wet. We have people suffering from psychiatric issues. Maybe it hasn't been studied, but if we put that study moving forward, there is more. You will find more caregivers having issues than we are willing to admit. With that being said, I will give it back to you. So time is not on our side at this minute. So give it back to you.
Yes. In conclusion, I'll just have to give a challenge to everybody out there. At some point, if you're a human being, I believe at some point you've had a chance to be in wet clothes or laid on a wet bed. And I want you to imagine that there's somebody who is, I believe if you were wet for a few hours, and it's circumstances which you could change. You could go take off your clothes and be dry and feel good. I want you to imagine somebody who is not able to get out of bed, not able to help themselves. They urinate. When they urinate, the urine is warm, and it feels warm to their skin, and the acid starts acting on their skin. After a few minutes, that gets to be very cold. And imagine yourself or your loved ones sitting in a wet, cold surface for an extended amount of time, and they don't have a way of getting rid of it. I think it's very distressing for anybody, and I believe if we started all the companies who are in the field, in this arena, could start actually addressing the patient, the person who's suffering, versus the bed, the mattress and the bed. I think we could make better strides. That's my take, and I believe it's a challenge I leave for everybody to think about that. And if they think that the current trajectory we are taking is the right one, well, I believe everybody's entitled to their opinion, but just take a hard look at that.
All right, that probably does it for us, and I'm looking forward to a more detailed conversation with Ezra, Edward, and other team members of EasyDrain, because come January, we will have a more detailed, not only this in a video or audio format, but we'll also have it in a magazine format. So we look forward to giving a more detailed report on this, a more detailed story, and a more detailed graphic format with pictures and illustrations, how the bed works, how the cushion works, and the possibilities that we look forward to. Thank you.